Hi friends, welcome to my channel. My name's Fiddle. Today I'll be showing you how to make this tiny wood-burning stove with a working door and drawer. As always, don't forget to check the link in the description that will take you to the Scavenger Hunt where you'll find the free printable pattern and list of materials so you can make this stove along with me. Okay, you ready? Let's go! To get started, we're going to trace all of our pattern pieces out onto our material. This piece is completely made out of chipboard, however you can use whatever materials you are more comfortable with. I only doubled up 3 layers on this piece, which were the top and bottom and the face. For the piece labeled all sides, you need 4 of them, but we only need to cut the squares out of 1 of them. To make it a working door, we need to make some chipboard hinges. For that, you need a ruler and some 1/4 inch thick strips that are about 1 inch long. At about the 1/2 inch mark, use a ball tool and make a line across your chipboard. If you do not have a ball tool, you can use a mechanical pencil with the lead pushed in, or even a regular ball pen. To make the tiny false drawer look a little more realistic, we're going to give it a handle. For that, you'll need a flathead jewelry pin and some sort of pokey tool to poke a hole through your chipboard. Then poke the jewelry pin through the hole, trim it down just a bit, and fold the back end over so that way it stays in place. Making sure that you keep a little bit towards the front as the handle, and mush down the back of it so it lays flat against the back of the drawer. Then glue the drawer face to the front bottom portion of the stove front. While that's drying, we can add the hinges to the door. Now we can start to build the rest of the body. I tape my pieces together first, then put glue in the seams and fold the tape over to hold it in place while it dries. Once you have 3 of the 4 sides on, we can glue in the shelves, one underneath each big hole. Now that we have the shelves in, we can put the back on. And next are the top and bottom, making sure that you have the stove portion centered. Now that we've got most of it put together, we can decide on where we want our stovepipe to be. For me, I put mine towards the back and in the center. I wanted to have a lot of the top space open because this stove is not only used to heat the room, but it's also used to boil water and sanitize things. Next, trace the end of your straw where you put your mark. Then cut the hole out using a craft knife. While we're waiting for the rest of the stove to dry, we can move on to building the drawer. Starting with the base, glue on both of the long sides and one of the short sides. For the drawer face, I made a handle using a paper brad and some pliers to bend it into shape. Unfortunately, I had done this a while ago, so I don't have it recorded, but up in the corner is the basic shape that you need to make. Once you have the handle made, cut 2 slits at the same place where your handle goes downwards. This is so we can insert them through the chipboard and bend them on the back. Now that the handle's in place, we can glue the drawer face onto the drawer. And we have one more handle to make for the door, and for that you'll need another post from a paper brad and some pliers. I'm really not sure how to explain it, but we're going for the shape up in the corner that looks like a P. I used the end of the paintbrush to get the circle shape. Now we can attach it just like we did for the other door by cutting slits through our chipboard and inserting the ends through it. To make the feet for the stove, I used the double beads like I usually do and topped it with a round bead. I'll be putting them on later after they've had time to dry. You can use whatever beads or feet you would like. And while we're waiting, we can go ahead and attach the door. But first we need to trim the ends so that way it fits on the stove right. Okay, now let's add on the feet. To give the stove a little bit more detail, I used nail art diamonds to make it look like rivets. If you don't have any of the nail art ones, they look exactly like the diamond art paintings that people really like. Those will work just as well. And the color really isn't important, we'll be painting over them later. I did use super glue to hold these in place, and I really shouldn't have. Used tacky glue or even E6000 would be a better option. Now onto the stovepipe. Mine is a bright red color and that certainly won't work, so I need to paint it black. But before I do, I'm gonna give it a good sanding. For the paint, I'm using black paint mixed with clear Elmer's glue. And while you have your paint out, go ahead and paint the whole stove, inside and out. To make the stovepipe look a little more realistic, you can use silver leaf or silver paint to paint over top of it. I was having a lot of problems with my silver leaf, and I go back over it with more paint to try to cover up the gaps. And it worked quite well. I think it made it look even more realistic with just little spots of the silver poking through, like it was covered with soot. Before the paint completely dries on the stove, let's add some cornstarch. That'll make it look like ashes everywhere. And while you're doing this, think of the places where the ashes would be built up the most and focus on those areas. Putting a little all over isn't necessarily a bad thing either, because ashes do fly around. Then let the stove completely dry. And we have one more thing to do before we can call this project done, and that is to add in the stovepipe. For this, I used E6000. And with that, it brings us to the end of our tutorial. I hope this gives you ideas for your next project, or you join along in making it with me. And to all of our new friends, welcome, I'm glad you're here. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment, as it all really helps me out a lot. Our next project will be this standing candlelit medical light that really lights up. And I have so many more awesome things coming up, so stick around for those. Thank you, Ginger, and I'll see you next time.